For more on this, I want to bring in political analyst Michael Geoghegan, joining me now from Williams Lake, BC. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
So let's start with why the Conservative Party would use Stephen Harper in a fundraising ad.
Well, I think obviously he's the last serving Conservative Prime Minister. He still enjoys significant support amongst the party faithful. And also the video did attempt to focus some attention on the basics in terms of fiscal responsibility, et cetera, that are near and dear to a lot of Conservative supporters.
But doesn't that play into the Liberals' hands, who have been trying to link Andrew Scheer's leadership with Stephen Harper and kind of, you know, I don't want to say fearmonger, but use it to maybe rally Liberal supporters to come out and vote?
Yes, absolutely. Harper was a politically polarizing figure. People either loved him or hate him, or at least, you know, kind of liked him or hated him. And as such, the Liberals pounced on this and have used it to say, you know, Scheer is basically going to be Harper's puppet if he becomes the next prime minister. So so from that standpoint, it was certainly an easy move for the Liberals to make.
We heard from Andrew Scheer yesterday for the first time in over a week, and initially he wanted to frame the press conference that he held as Justin Trudeau kind of hiding by not agreeing to participate in 2 extra debates outside of the 2 that the Commission is putting on and he has agreed to. But the press conference kind of turned into a bit of an indictment on his stance on abortion. How do you think he handled it, and why does this issue and question keep coming up? Why is he not able to put it to bed?
Well, for several reasons. First of all, in the United States, these kind of, culture war, social issues are brought up time and time again to try and, polarize the electorate along lines other than their own economic self-interest, right? How do you get poor white people to vote for Republicans, right, that are all about tax cuts for the wealthy? Well, bring up issues like gun control, bring up issues like abortion, et cetera. And so that spills over into Canada. The fact is that in Canada, we've had a Supreme Court ruling and saying that any kind of rules impinging upon women's right in that area would be a violation of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in terms of, sanctity of the individual. That having been said, if you are seeking an abortion after the first trimester, you're going to have a difficult time getting it past any medical ethics board or hospital board unless there are compelling medical reasons. So, I think we've achieved a pretty fine balance. I think politicians of all political stripes recognize this isn't going to change. And given that we've achieved kind of political homeostasis, it's a bit of a red herring issue.
But then when it comes to same-sex marriage, for example, Andrew Scheer again faced questions yesterday about his stance on that, because clearly in 2005, as we've seen in the video that the Liberals, again, put front and center, he was opposed to gay marriage. He says now he will protect any Canadian under the eyes of the law, and gay marriage is legal now. But is that enough to definitively show that he is not against gay marriage?
Well, again, it's one of those things where, there's certainly Conservatives that happen to be gay, regardless of whether they're out or in the closet, same as any other political party. And again, it wasn't a Liberal government that brought about legalized gay marriage in Canada. It was a Supreme Court ruling, and that being the case, there isn't going to be an overturning of that. And the other thing that's ironic is, of course, the Liberals taking Scheer to task in terms of this video, which is from a number of years ago. At that point in time, the Liberals in the House of Commons were also voting and speaking against same-sex marriage.
Yes,
so,
but they're not running. They're not running to be prime minister. Like, this is, it's optics, it's marketing, it's dirty politics, however you want to call it. He's the one running to be prime minister.
Well, exactly. But what I'm saying is that it's not like the Liberals were the champions of same-sex marriage at this particular point in time. It's an issue that obviously the Liberals want to bring up in terms of scaring people who may be thinking of voting Conservative. But again, because it came out of a ruling from the Supreme Court, I don't see any of the current political parties changing that status quo.
Do you think Scheer has handled it well, based on what we saw yesterday, where there still seems to be some confusion today?
I think he's had difficulty in terms of coming up with answers on the fly that are convincing to Canadians, and to the extent that his speaking style is seen as awkward, etc. It sometimes comes across to Canadians as, oh, is he being honest, or is he telling mistruths or whatever? And I think that is the main issue he has around a lot of these contentious issues.
Okay, just quickly, I also want to touch on Jagmeet Singh because he is set to be nominated as the NDP candidate for Burnaby South tonight. But it sounds like the New Democrats are struggling to nominate candidates ahead of the federal election this fall. Why is that?
Well, because in terms of the polling numbers, the NDP in a significant number of polls now look like they're in fourth place. Now, they obviously have concentrated areas of support, so they still may do better than the Greens in terms of final outcomes, in terms of seats. But the NDP knows that in this election, if you're running as a candidate, you're much less likely to get elected than you were in the last federal election. And you've also had a situation where you had one NDP MP defect to the Greens. So I think it's that kind of backdrop where some people are assessing, the amount of time and energy it takes into campaigning and saying, do I want to put myself and my family through this?
Yeah. Did Jagmeet Singh sort of put himself behind the eight ball when he conceded that he would not support a minority conservative government if that's indeed what happens after Election Day?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't think anyone would expect the NDP or the Greens to support a minority conservative government. And that's the advantage that Trudeau has, is that if he doesn't get a majority government, he's much more likely than Scheer to be able to form a minority government. And that's why the Conservatives are going all out. But certainly in terms of where the momentum is in the polls right now, the Liberal numbers are up, the Conservative numbers are down, the Green numbers are up, the NDP numbers are down. So overall, that bodes well in terms of Trudeau getting either a majority or a minority government right now, and a big change from where we were a few months ago, where a Conservative majority looked almost inevitable.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. All right, political analyst Michael Geoghegan, always good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.